everyone. Today we are going to discuss about stress and coping mechanism. To begin with, what is stress? We all would have said at some point of time, I am feeling stress. What does this mean? Ross in simple terms puts it as an emotional imbalance. Stress can be attributed to any event, situation, circumstances, demand, pressure or tension that disturbs or threatens to disturb the individual's functioning, leading to physical, mental and emotional strain. The word stress has its origin in the Latin word strictus, meaning tight or narrow. This root word reflects the internal feeling of tension and also the constriction of the muscle and breathing reported by many people under stress. Stress is nothing but a natural, ongoing, dynamic and interactive process that takes place as people adjust to their environment. Let me define stress. The term stress as it's currently used was coined by Hans Selye in 1936, considered the father of modern research on stress. He defined it as the non-specific response of the body to any demand for change. For example, imagine you have failed in your final year exams or unexpectedly lost 1 crore project for your company. What will you do? Or how you feel? Maybe shocked or totally confused, don't know what to do, you don't have answers to fix your problem. Maybe in a fix or feel no one to help you, feeling helplessness. In situations like these, we might feel like crying and develop anxiety, loss of appetite, sleeplessness and so on and so forth. These are called as non-specific response by Hans Selye for failing in your exam or project, which is of no use in addressing the problem, hence leading to stressful situations. A physician concluded in a British medical journal of 1951 issue like this: stress, in addition to being itself, was also the cause of itself and the result of itself. So we won't know where it starts or how to address when and why it happens, but we feel stressed and stress leads to more stress. This happens due to stressful situations most of the time. To take it further, stress is highly a subjective phenomena that it defies definition of by social scientists. For example, you presenting a topic or attending a YOC is a stressful event, but for another person it might be an interesting and exciting one. On the whole, stress is a physical and a mental response of the body to the demands made upon it to something already happened or perceived to happen. One needs to note that stress is not a factor that dwells in the individual or the environment. Instead, it is embedded in an ongoing process that involves individual transactions within their personal, social and cultural environment. Moving on, it is true that most people viewed stress as some unpleasant threat. Even dictionaries define stress as physical, mental or emotional strain or tension, or a condition or feeling experienced when a person perceives the demand exceeds the personal and social resource the individual is able to mobilize. Selye subsequently had to create a new word called stressors to distinguish stimulus from response. That is, stress is the response to a threat, but stress was generally viewed as being synonymous with distress. So stress was put in a negative light and its positive effects ignored. Stressors necessitate coping or dealing with them and stretch the body beyond its natural capacity. However, stress can be helpful and good. As you are aware, it can be a motivating force for people to accomplish more. Imagine in Olympic Games, one would frequently hear comments like, the particular athlete has overcome his or her personal best record. In our lives too, we would have experiences like this to share. Maybe our performance during public exams like 10th or 12th standard, our final marks would be higher than what we have scored in the midterm marks during that particular year. That means stress is inherently not good or bad or destructive. Adaptive stress also helps us to rise to life's challenges, as we have seen from our previous example. It can increase our individual's achievement and improve our performance, called Eurostress, or can cause various psychological and physiological disorders like migraine, arthritis, heart disease, nervousness, hopelessness, depression, attempts to suicide, and lack of concentration, forgetfulness, and also push one to smoking, drinking, and so on and so forth, called distress. Research further shows that increased stress results in increase in productivity, up to a point after which things go rapidly down the hill. However, the point or peak differs from each one of us, and one needs to be aware about it. When can a potential stressor translate into an actual stress? The perception of stress is largely dependent upon the individual's cognitive appraisal of the event and then resources available to deal with them. These resources may be mental, physical, personal, or even social. Since stress is the body's general response to the environmental situation, to any kind of demand or threat, when one senses danger, whether it is real or imagined, the body defenses move into high gear into a rapid automatic process known as the fight or flight reaction or the stress response. Three conditions are necessary for potential stress to become an actual stress. First one is uncertainty over the outcome. The second one being outcome must be very important to you. And to a certain extent, the third factor will be the time. So if you are not sure about the results and the result is important, one might tend to experience stress. And if there is a delay in declaring the result, will lead or add to stress. Now, it is also explained in terms of the environmental characteristics that are disruptive to the individual, like noise, overcrowding, bad relationship, or daily commuting, and etc. The reaction to external stresses, which are continuous and persistent over a period of time or frequency, is called as strain. As far as the stages are concerned, Selye, a medical doctor and a researcher from McGill University in Montreal, came up with theory of general adaptation syndrome to explain the physiological changes the body goes through when under stress. He believed understanding these different responses and how they relate to each other may help you cope up with stress, and hence came up with these three stages, and based on his experiment with rats. The first stage will be alarm stage. The alarm reaction stage refers to the initial symptom the body experiences when under stress. This natural reaction, fight or flight, is a physiological response to stress. On seeing a snake, one might flee or try to handle by chasing it out, fight. As the individual might experience fear or shock, in other words, they are alarmed. Suddenly they see it and they get totally alarmed. In the process, the heart rate increases, and with the boost from the adrenal gland, energy level gets enhanced. This fight or flight response occurs in the alarm reaction. The second stage is called as resistance stage. After the initial shock of the stressful event and having a fight or flight response, the body begins to repair itself. In our example, when the individual moves to a position where he feels safe, he has a safe distance from the snake, at that point of time, the heart rate and the blood pressure begins to normalize. Although the body enters this recovery stage, it remains on the high alert for a while. Some stressful situations continue for an extended period of time, like what are the chances of its reoccurrence? Some of the signs of resistance stage include irritability, then frustration, poor concentration, and so on. The third stage is called as the exhaustion stage. This stage is a result of prolonged or chronic stress. Struggling with the stress for a long period of time can drain your physical, emotional, and mental resources to the point where your body no longer has the strength to fight stress. You may give up or feel your situation is hopeless. People suffering from last stage of cancer. Some of the signs of exhaustion includes fatigue, burnout, depression, anxiety, decreased stress tolerance. The physical effect of these stages also weaken your immune system and put you to rest for stress-related illness. This process is continuous for all stressful situations. So one has to be careful, and when under stress, try to overcome it as quick as you can. Now let us look how this really can affect mental health. Let me quote some of the research studies on stress and their impact on students' lives. Research by Carter, Kelsler, Julian, and many more indicate that stress is associated with increase of anxious state and lowers well-being in individuals. According to Ribeiro, in a study in 2017, he says that levels of stress are associated with poor quality of life and well-being, and ongoing stress also precipitates the development of more serious mental health issues such as anxiety and depression. Studies show major stressful events are one of the best predictors of the onset of depression. For a student, depression and anxiety symptoms can further adversely affect academic achievement. In this regard, study on Finnish students aged between 13 to 17 shows that depression severity was associated with concentration difficulties, poor social relationship, poor in self-learning skills, poor academic performance, and the worst, the overall performance is down. In terms of future orientation, importantly, adolescent depression can result in long-term poor employment outcomes. That means one will not be able to give the best. A 25-year longitudinal study from New Zealand which states that people who had depression at the ages of 16 to 21 had greater rates of welfare dependence. That is, they are not independent when they grow old. And unemployment are quite high in those individuals, clearly demonstrating that the impact of stress on mental health in adolescents can have a long-lasting impact on individuals' lives. So during adolescence, coping capabilities has to be developed in individuals. On the positive side, the study highlights the potential of educational setting in mediating the impacts of academic-related stress on young people's mental health. That is, proper education and training in terms of awareness generation, life skill enhancement can positively help in overcoming stress-related issues among students. Therefore, developing coping capabilities should be a priority in educational setup. The next one is coping with stress. There are many ways that people strive to cope with stresses and feeling of stress in their everyday life. A host of literature is available, both popular and academic, extol the practices of stress management techniques, and separate industries are devoted to it. Many techniques are available to help individuals cope with the stress that life brings in. The capacity to tolerate or cope with stress varies among people, and the root of stress is the cognitive appraisal of an event as stressful or stress-inducing. Lazarus has distinguished between two types of appraisals. First one is the primary appraisal, which is the extent to which a person perceives an event to be positive, negative, or neutral. For example, examination by recruitment agencies. If one feels it is very important to clear that exam, then comes the next appraisal, the secondary appraisal. Here, it includes assessment of individuals' coping abilities based on resources and whether they will be sufficient to clear the recruitment exam. Right? As these appraisals are helpful to decide whether the individual is going to face stress or he is going to be relaxed. So these appraisals are highly subjective and depends on many factors like past experience, controllable parameters, intensity, duration, complexity, predictability, and many more. So Lazarus and Folkman has conceptualized coping as a dynamic process rather than an individual trait. It refers to constantly changing cognitive and behavioral efforts to master, reduce, or tolerate the internal and external demands that are created by stressful transactions. He feels coping serves to allow the individual to manage or alter the problem and regulate the emotional response to that problem. According to him, coping responses can be divided into two types. The first one being emotionally focused coping. So this involves trying to reduce the negative emotional response associated with stress, such as embarrassment, fear, anxiety, depression, excitement, and frustration. As Albert Ellis explains like this: separate the emotions attached to the problem and the problem will collapse. By removing emotions, one can have a clear look at the issues by developing a rationalistic perspective. This can be achieved through drug therapy, doctors prescribing medicines, and counselors. At the individual level or the personal level, one can work on like keeping oneself distracted by keeping yourself busy, journal writing, and emotional discourse, that is like talking to a friend, praying for guidance and strength, meditation, mindfulness, and even suppressing negative thoughts or emotions. So emotion-focused coping does not provide a long-term solution and may have negative side effects as it delays the person's dealing with the problem. However, this will be realistic option only when the source of stress is outside person's control. Next one being the problem-focused coping. Problem-focused strategy aims to remove or reduce the cause of the stresses by addressing the issue related to the problem in a broad spectrum but in a precise manner. Furthermore, it works on empowering the individual to help himself by obtaining instrumental social support. Hence, instrumental in directly reducing the stress. In general, problem-focused coping is best as it removes the stressor, so deals with the root cause of the problem, providing a long-term solution. However, it is not always possible to use problem-focused strategies. For example, when someone is suffering from last stages of cancer, problem-focused strategy may not be very helpful. So let me conclude by saying an individual can effectively cope with psychological stresses by appraising stressful situation and having confidence in their ability to handle situations that are stressful and constantly work on enhancing capacities. Hope this helps to develop new values and interests to effectively deal with your stresses. Thank you for your time.